Hello everyone, it's Cassandra. I'll be doing my presentation on the digital age of self-publishing. I'd like to apologize for not being in today, but because of family circumstances, I cannot. So let's get started. Okay, so let's begin with a self-publishing recap. What is it? Well, it's when someone decides to publish their work on their own with little to no help, and they post it or publish it for people to read and experience by themselves completely. Moving on, what is the digital age? Well, the digital age is something that began or started to begin in the 1980s. It is a time in which the rise of digital formats took form within today's community, such as computers, cell phones, and they began to evolve from what they were, such as box computers or landlines, such as rotary phones. Okay, so where it began. Well, digital writing was clearly morphed from the classic idea of writing that was around for decades before it. Where classic writing began with a simple pen and paper, which we all know what that is, we have begun moving into the concept of digital writing, which is the first known piece of digital writing was created by computer scientists, which I found was pretty interesting. Where it all began by using a simple pen and paper, we now have evolved into using computers, such as the box computers that we all know of that people used to use. I had one personally when I was growing up. Those things were kind of horrible, but now we're into a place where they're much more advanced. And to think that computer scientists were the first ones to actually create a written piece of work that was published digitally is pretty intriguing, very interesting. Moving on to today, the 21st century. The idea of publishing online has become widely known by today's society, and a lot of people are actually quite terrified of it. It is grown from its baby stages into what we know now, which is people, actually pretty famous people, have become what they are, like the Harry Potter author we all know pretty famously as J.K. Rowling. She started online and got scouted by somebody in order to publish her work via an actual novel. When I think of the digital age writing, I think of online forums, blogs, comic websites, novel creating websites, and more. Thinking about it realistically, I'm only 20 years old. To think that digital publishing only became a thing in 1980 is pretty interesting, considering where we're at now, where we have so many different forms of posting online, where we have the freedom to do and so as we say and please, without even really putting a name to it. Whereas back then, you would have your name posted on every single piece of writing you ever made. The idea of the pen and paper has become so trivial, but it's so historically fascinating considering what we're at now. We post things online for people to read under fake names or even real names if we want to, but the idea of being able to post and say whatever we want without criticism is pretty interesting, and the fact that we've gotten to this point is pretty astonishing to me. Overall, we've come from something that was written with a pen and a scroll half the time and just spread that way, compared to now we have a mass cluster of electronic devices that we can now use to access all the information that we need right in our hands every day. We all started from a very small community, so the people, me in particular, who have posted things online for people to read, began so small. And now we're using forums like Webtoon, Tapas, WeHear, Wattpad, blogs, YouTube, other things like this. We're using all of these different formats to post our work to the world, and it's just growing. It's on a non-stop scaling to the sky here. We're getting a skyscraper of different types of formats that we're able to use to post our work to everybody without needing any kind of interference, especially if we use a fake name. We aren't forced to fit a standard. We're able to say and do as we please without any kind of backlash. And I think that this has given people a way to express themselves a lot better, even if it is under a fake name, and it's something that I take pride in personally because I use these websites on a regular basis. We have unlimited access to the world that can't be put to a halt by using a classic publishing agency nowadays. We are now at a point in the world where we can post and say and do whatever we want, and even make money off of it half the time. Okay, so now we're going to move on to one of the 3 examples that I have listed for you. Webtoon is something that I use on a daily basis. I love a lot of the comics on this website. It was first launched in 2004 by Junkyo Kim. I hope I said that right. I highly doubt it. And originated in South Korea. It has the option to have your own work in multiple languages and locations around the world. So you have the opportunity to have your work translated into other languages by other workers on the site, which gives people an opportunity to get a job through multiple areas because you have the option to also be paid for posting your work on the site and also translating work for other people. Well, as I stated, Webtoon is something that I use fairly often. My personal favorite comics are Midnight Rain, Phase, Let's Play, and Lumine. These 4 comics are mostly romance, but also a little bit of other stuff. This is a forum people use to create comics for others to enjoy, with opportunities to be scouted and even paid for their work. There are 2 different types of platforms. You have the Canvas platform, which is where anybody can create something and post it, and you don't get paid, but it's an opportunity to be scouted. Whereas the Originals platform is when you've been scouted by the company Webtoon itself and are offered a place to post your work in order to get paid. With this, you also get the opportunity to set up daily passes, which cost, I don't quite remember, but you get 1 as a reader every single day for free, and that's usually used for comics that are completed on the Originals platform, and then you have the option to also buy coins, which you can purchase chapters on FastPass and other chapters that you haven't read yet that you've missed. Moving on to Tapas. Tapas is another webcomic format that I actually use on a regular basis for more mature content, so there isn't as much restraint as there is on Webtoon. They have a variety of comics and more. It was launched in April of 2016, so it's pretty new compared to Webtoon, and it was created by Chang Kim in also South Korea. Okay, so it is also another webcomic platform that I use regularly, as I said. Some of the ones that I like personally are Eyes on Me, Beware of the Villainess, and The Beginning After the End. Those are only 3 of the few that I read on there. I don't read as many on here because it does cost a lot more to actually read these stories rather than not. You also have age limits that you have to prove that you're over 18 for certain stories, which Eyes on Me is another example of that. Many comics are free to read, although some chapters do cost money after reading the first few. That being said, though, a lot of the creators on this story do make money from writing these stories, so paying this money, such as like $10 for 100 coins or something like that, and it's only like 3 to 4 coins a chapter, it's pretty worth it considering the amount of stories and creativity that you find in there. Moving on to my last example, it's called We Here, which is a mostly fiction-based story, and it's mostly about werewolf stories, which are, it depends on what you like, but you also have other options like thriller, romance, and all that such, but the ones they mostly advertise are the werewolf romance stories because for some reason that's what they focus on. The writers post their work on the site, and then the work is casted voice actors, so there is also an opportunity for this app to find jobs through voice acting if that is something else you enjoy. It is also another audiobook format rather than just simply reading it, but you can also read it just as much. We Here was launched more recently, so it was launched in about 2020. As of now, the creator of the app, and along with where it was launched, I don't really actually know. I couldn't find this information, although this app doesn't seem to be originated in Canada, so that's probably why. Although I've used it quite enough, so I could say it's trustworthy, and a lot of the stories and the voice actors on there are pretty pristine. I love them very much, and a lot of the stories are very enjoyable, especially for romance readers. Okay, so moving on. We Here is another platform I use on the regular. A lot of the books that I've read are mostly romance because that's my go-to when it comes to fiction novels. The works I've read so far and the ones that I really enjoyed are The Human in the Wolf Pack, Rejected, and Back and Better, all werewolf fantasies. I apologize if that's cringy. Some stories are free, but most cost money to read after a certain point, so it's kind of like a, as the week comes, you pay 2 or 3 coins, you get the chapter, or if it's set up on a free episode every week, you get lucky that way too. I would say it's worth purchasing stories that you get into right away because a lot of them are completed and a lot of the voice actors get paid through the money that you use to purchase the chapters that you read, and personally I think it's worth it because a lot of these stories are very well done and the actors are amazing and it is so worth every penny that you spend. Moving on to the idea of digital age in the media. So what has it done for us writers? Well, me myself, it has done a fair amount. I personally post only on Wattpad, but I also have started posting on YouTube, mostly just for school assignments, but it's still posting the work that I create. So by doing this, I'm building a following for future reference that I can use to promote myself on these forums, such as my Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and stuff like that. These are just some examples available for writers to utilize on a daily basis. These are examples that I use from time to time, so I personally just post on Wattpad myself, but I do utilize the other platforms to find writers that I personally enjoy reading. So even though we have access to this media, it's a good form of promotion. But what else does it do? Well, it helps us get inspiration, learn more. It gives us ideas to write about and spread around the world, and it gives us an opportunity to post these things. Well, we've been given a chance to make money off of these things as well, so a lot of these forums, such as Instagram, have given an opportunity to be paid for creators, where it used to be just a picture place where you'd post photos and small videos of 15 seconds for everybody to see. Most cases, paying a fee is unnecessary for self-publishing on these formats because usually some people get sponsors, or it's just to have fun, explore creativity. We also have opportunities to gain a following and also be scouted, as I said before. So companies from other forums or companies can come onto your page and contact you personally, or even email you directly, because you have the option to leave contact information on a lot of these websites. What it boils down to, we escape the idea of being forced to fit an image as well. So in regards to posting online, we don't have standards to fit. We have rules to follow depending on the website we choose, such as Webtoon, you can't have overly mature content, whereas Topaz, you can have mature content that has explicit scenes. So we may have rules to follow, but we don't have to fit an image that a company requires you to have before publishing the work. You can also keep yourself completely and utterly unidentifiable by using a fake name. We can share our own opinions, our own values without constraint, and we are able to put out what we see is important without any constraints whatsoever. And we have the ability to build a team we see worth paying in the future. Online opportunities for us writers are everywhere, including finding people that we trust, such as valued artists, value editors, who we see worth paying in the future, and that's what self-publishing gives you the opportunity to do, because if you're working with a company, you are set to those people and you don't get to choose. Well, in most cases anyway, you don't get to choose, but sometimes you do. As I've said, the use of media doesn't give us constraints. We're able to find the people that we trust and use those people on a regular basis. We can even pay people like on Fiverr and commission them to make a book cover for us, and all we have to do is simply pay them once and put their name on the cover for illustration, depending on what they require, of course. But we also have opportunities to form a platform, such as a website, to spread our messages around the world and explore our passions. We have the opportunity to do that through self-publishing, whereas through a company, we have constraints. We can't explore those passions in a great deal unless it fits the company image. You know, when I first decided that I wanted to be a writer, I wanted to go through the classic tradition of publishing, but then I met an author this summer, and he told me that I could self-publish, and it's a lot easier. And you just have to put the money forth, but you get the complete profit back. You decide everything about it, you create it, you edit it, you do it all for yourself. But when it comes to the idea of classic publishing, well, that's just it. It's classic. It's not modern. You're going through the steps that they have placed forward in their company for you to benefit from, of course. You learn a lot. But in the long run, they're making the final choices. They're editing your work for you. They're doing the steps for you. So what has the digital age really done to classic publishing? Well, it's kind of thrown it out the window. When it comes to classic publishing, we get everything done for us. It's handed to us, but at a cost. We pay the company, and they also get commissions and rights to your story. We need to fit an image in order to satisfy the company we're working for, whereas digital age, you don't. You follow rules, but you don't have to fit a certain standard to post on those websites or spread your message across the world. You get a lot more opportunities when self-publishing compared to classic publishing, because once you publish a book classically, you also can't get it translated by another company into another language. That is something you need to think about before you publish a book by yourself even, or classically. There's a lot of things people need to consider. The competition is tight compared to online, where we have complete access to everything. Yes, the competition is still high whether you do it via Classic or via online. You need to be scouted and chosen by the publisher. You need to submit your work when they're asking for work to be submitted. You need to work around their schedule. Sure, you can tell them when you're ready to publish your book. You can give them a manuscript whenever you want. But in the end, a lot of the time it's stacked up on a pile and you don't have a lot of options. You just have to sit there and wait. The digital form of publishing has made classic publishing more of a redundant form of publishing, and it's affected the economy of publishing altogether. The classic form of publishing has become less sought after when it comes to the idea of publishing work. I mean, even me, I've kind of changed my ideas. The idea of classic publishing has always been so prominent in my heart, and I've always wanted to do it. But after learning this, I honestly want to take a shot at digital publishing because it has downgraded the outcomes of the real classic publishing. We're going into a more modern age, but realistically, what does that leave for the classic publishing? Overall, the idea of self-publishing online has downgraded the requirements for publishing classically. You can easily publish on your own, and there's not a lot of restraints in your way. It makes it easier, and you're not as constrained while doing it. Not only do you have to pay them upright for their services, but you also got to keep them on a payroll for every book that you sell. And whereas with self-publishing, you don't really have to do that. You pay who you think deserves to be paid if you have a team, or you just keep all the profit for working by yourself. Sure, it may cost you more to put out than to get in when you first start, but you still have a lot of options to also learn from the experience compared to doing it the traditional way. Not only that, you get a lot more opportunities this way. You can also self-publish your work in multiple different languages if you so desire, because if you publish a work on your own and you want to publish it in different languages, there's always the opportunity to do that if you find the right publisher to do it for you. Whereas if you publish in one company, another is not going to take the same story because that's against their rules. Whereas in an example I gave earlier with Webtoon, they have the opportunity to translate your work into any language you so desire and broadcast it anywhere in the world. So you have a lot more opportunities with online publishing in that way compared to traditional publishing. So overall, it has kind of plundered the idea of traditional publishing. Not only that, traditional publishing is going to lose out on a lot of money because of it. The digital age of publishing has made a ditch effort in taking down the need of classic publishing. A lot of companies aren't aiming to do this particularly, but they are also aiming to make money out of the industry as well. So the industry is expanding where classic publishers may not enjoy. It has made it less needed and less wanted for many writers, including myself. I think I'm probably going to self-publish my first novel because it seems a lot easier and I get a lot more profit out of it in the end. Sure, the marketing and stuff will be a lot more difficult because I don't have as big of a following as said publishers in the industry, but I still think it'll be a beneficial topic to learn and it'll give me a lot more knowledge in the field. In the end, though, I still might go the traditional route because it's always going to have a soft spot in my heart. The work that I do, I want it to be done well. And these people are trained well in the field. They know what they're doing. Whereas me, if I publish on my own, I might not be so lucky. So in the end, sure, self-publishing digitally and not digitally has downgraded the need for traditional publishing, but in the end, traditional publishing will always be needed. And I'd like to say that personally, even though I'm considering switching to trying to self-publish my own novel, I would also consider still traditionally publishing for many reasons. Sure, there's a lot less benefits and I have a lot more constraints to follow, but in the end, I learn. I grow my knowledge, and in the end, I might be able to publish my own book in a lot better way than before, and it might be worth it. In the end, the digital age in the future. Well, as I can see personally, the digital age is just rising and rising and rising. It's on an uprise and it's not slowing down anytime soon. Many more companies, many more people around the world are partaking on this wonderful platter that's laid out in front of us. And there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of misses that people can take and get in the long run. And many people are being brought into the idea and meaning of writing and sharing their work around the world by themselves, including myself. It's clear to me that the digital age is only aiding in the progress of becoming a writer, and you're getting a lot more opportunities in this world that I never thought I would in grade 8 when I first wanted to be a writer. And personally, I never thought about this idea until this year, and I'm honestly kind of excited to learn more about it. And yes, I know it's going to be a long journey, but if you love writing as much as I do, I know that taking this journey will be nothing more than exciting, thrilling, and fulfilling. And I want to partake in this journey. I want to do this, and I want to make my life the most enjoyable it can be, and I want to write books. That's what I want to do. That's always what I wanted to do since grade 8. So with the future being with every passing second, I am excited to say that I will be partaking in the digital age of publishing. I will continue using Wattpad and other sources as such to learn, witness, read, enjoy, and write work for the world to hear and notice. I hope the world enjoys the work that I put out, and I hope that the hard work that I put into it will bring a good future to the world of digital art and traditional publishing, as I want to experience both in my life, and I think you should too. Finally, I'd like to thank you all for listening to my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope it was insightful. I really enjoyed talking to you guys. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there to do the presentation in person, and I have a cat staring at me. I apologize for the meowing in the background. I think that's adorable, so I'm going to leave it in. But thank you for listening. He won't stop meowing, but this is my works cited. Thank you guys very much. I apologize for the meowing, but as I said, I think it's adorable. My little culprit here, his name is Mr. Moon, and I hope you enjoyed.